What's up guys, it's Sunmin and welcome back to Your Money Game, the show where we get better with saving, spending and investing. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about tax savings through the SRS. So you might have heard about this SRS thing from a friend, but you've not taken action. And the reason why is likely that you either haven't figured out how because it might seem a bit complex, or you're asking yourself that, hey, is it really worth the trouble? And you just never got around to doing it. Now, since it's September, it's actually a perfect time to think about this question because you have a few more months to think about, should I take some of this money, save up a bit more and put it away into SRS for a better tax season in 2021. So in this video, I'll be covering the quick points of what SRS is, what are the main factors that you need to consider if you want to make the decision, and then some of the options that you could consider. Ready? Let's go! So the Supplementary Retirement Scheme, or SRS, is a program that was created by the Singapore government to help us complement what we already have with the CPF. And again, the goal is all about us having a comfortable financial retirement. And here are the key points that you need to know about it. Firstly, for you to contribute to SRS, you need an SRS account. And that account is very simple. You can go to a local bank, DBS, UOB, OCBC, and it's free to create one. With your brand new SRS account, you can then deposit some funds into it. And you can do one of two things. First, leave it there. Second is to invest that money into a range of different types of assets. Shockingly, data from the Ministry of Finance showed that about 30+% of people put money in there and they don't do anything with it. So besides saving a bit more money for retirement, the biggest benefit to the SRS is the tax relief that you're able to get. Now, if you're a Singaporean or a PR, you have up to $15,300 for you to claim every year. Unlike the CPF, you can withdraw your SRS funds at any point in time, but the major thing is that you will be hit by a penalty of 5% if you withdraw that money before your retirement age, which is currently about 62. Say you earn $50,000 a year, and if you had $20,000 in your SRS account and you pulled it out, that $20,000 will be added to your $50,000, and then your total tax for the next year will be upon the $70,000. But for most people, the best thing to do is keep it in there right up to your retirement age at 62, at which point when you withdraw the money, only 50% of it becomes taxable. And on top of that, if you withdraw it, you can have the option of spreading it out over 10 years. So those are the main points. But the big question of this video is, when does it really make sense? I actually don't think there's a perfect formula to think about it, but I really believe that there are main factors that you need to consider if you're wanting to make that decision. The first factor is your income. So I think that you should be earning at least $5,000 a month before you start considering the SRS seriously. I've been messing around with the calculators and here's why I think so. First is that if you make $5,000 a month, when you've deducted your CPF, your take-home pay would be about $4,000 a month. Next, at that tax bracket, I'm going to assume you have the bare minimum of tax deductions, which is $1,000 for your personal income relief, and on top of that, about $12,000 in terms of CPF deductions. Once you factor that all in, your effective tax for the year would be about $1,040. The final point assumes that you can save up to the $15,300 limit annually to be deposited into SRS. And if you do that, you have a maximum savings of tax for the next year of $780. Now, can you do it on lower than $5,000 a month income? Of course you can. Just remember that the less income you have, the less taxes you'll be hit with, and the less income you have also means you'll have less amount of money to put away for the long term. One more thing to remember in this income factor is that you have a personal income relief limit of about $80,000 a year. For some of you with family or dependents, it is actually very possible for you to hit that limit. So please do the math before you make any commitments to the SRS. So that was the biggest factor out of the way. The next is your investing horizon. So for some of us, when we think about investing, it tends to be short, medium or long term. With the SRS, it pushes it all the way to the extreme. The reason why is that you shouldn't want to take the money out because of that 5% penalty. So that means you're going to have to project all the way into the future, and whether or not you're comfortable leaving that money in there for the ultra long term. The third factor is your investable amount as well as investing ambitions. The investable amount refers to the amount of money that you can comfortably park aside all the way for retirement and not think about it. I believe that amount should be at the minimum the $15,300 mark, or ideally even higher than that. The reason is you'll want some buffer even with long-term investments. And that brings us to your investing ambitions. Now, if you think that you're going to be a more sophisticated investor in the future, you're going to want more flexibility. Currently with the SRS, you might not be able to invest in certain kind of assets that you are interested in. That's why you're going to want to have some extra cash above and beyond the $15,300 to invest and experiment with. But you don't need any extra cash at all to click on that like and subscribe button to please the gods of YouTube. So if you thought about those 3 factors and you say to yourself like, look, I'm sold, what do I do right now? The first practical step is to create that SRS account and put money into it. Next is that you have to think about the different kind of options that you have to invest in. Thankfully, SRS has a fairly wide variety, but my 2 cents is to really consider more aggressive investment assets such as stocks. Stocks are the best returning asset class over the long term, and since you're parking away money for the ultra long term, it's gonna have the time to work itself out. Plus, don't forget that you already have the CPF, which is a safe haven for your money. But of course, each person's scenario is different, so please do your own research and figure out what is it that really suits your financial needs. So if you're convinced that stocks are the way to go, here are the different options that you have. Now, the first is unit trusts. So you have the option of going through your bank, or you could go to a place like Fundsupermart, but the important thing is to look for unit trusts that have been approved by SRS. The good news is there are hundreds that you can choose from, but you gotta be comfortable again with the kind of costs that are associated with unit trusts, and traditionally they can be a little bit high. The next option is to use a broker and buy ETFs and index funds that are listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange, or you can buy specific stocks or REITs. If you're keen on those, be sure to check with your broker whether or not they are SRS compliant. And before you do anything, you also need to ensure that your SRS account has been linked to your broker. The final and easiest option for you is to consider using a Roboadvisor. That's what I do with my SRS funds. And currently there are 3 options for you to choose from, which are Stashaway, Endowus, as well as Money Owl. Now, each of them have their own uniqueness when it comes to the platform as well as certain conditions, so you need to do your own research to figure out which one fits your needs. Regardless of your choice, any gains made with your SRS investing is automatically redeposited back into SRS. And all money in there are subject to the exact same rules as the initial monies that you deposited into it. So as a parting note, here are the few reasons why I personally feel that the SRS is worth it. The first is that money that you've saved on tax today is worth more than money in the future because of inflation. Second, if you take that savings and you invest it, not only are you saving that amount of money on a cash level, but you're also able to compound it further into the future if you've invested that money into other different kind of assets. Finally, there's still a little bit of flexibility. So in the event of an emergency, you can still pull the money out. Yes, you gotta pay a penalty, but at least you have that little bit of flexibility. So I hope you guys found this useful, and if you did and decided to make investments with our SRS, let me know in the comments below on what you decided to do with it. So thanks for watching, and if you got value out of this, I would really appreciate you hitting that like, subscribe, as well as that bell button, because I'm gonna be back again next Sunday with a brand new video. And until then, take care and keep playing your own game.